Welcome back to another episode of Soul Wisdom Transitions, where we explore the various stages of personal transformation and spiritual growth. I am your host, Terry, and today we will be exploring limiting beliefs and how they impact our everyday existence. Limiting beliefs are deeply ingrained beliefs that we hold about ourselves and also how we show up in the world. And these limiting beliefs constrain us somehow. They can hold us back from achieving our goals, pursuing our dreams, and living a fulfilling life. These beliefs are often negative and self-sabotaging, and they can stem from past experiences, societal influences, or misconceptions about our own capabilities. Limiting beliefs create self-imposed limitations that hinder our personal and professional growth, often leading to feelings of inadequacy, fear, and a sense of being stuck. So limiting beliefs is something that most of us have, and most of us, or many of us, are not really aware of this. Limiting beliefs, I like to equate with the stories that we tell ourselves on why we can't do something. Is it a story that we were told when we were younger? Is it bullying or just abuse that we took from our siblings or cousins or schoolmates about why we couldn't? And these are stories and beliefs in ourselves that we take with us through the entirety of our life. And this is where I will share with you the limiting belief that I had, that I've spoken about in the past, is I always felt that I wasn't good enough to be a friend just as I was. No one wanted to be friends with me just because I'm Terry. But if I could buy my way into community, then I would be accepted. And as I got older, work compatriots, colleagues, they weren't going to want to just be friends with me just because I'm Terry. So I had to figure out a way, which unfortunately came way too easy, of changing my personality, which was my limiting belief. And by doing, the way I did that was to drink. Any social situation, I would drink. And I later came to the conclusion, many years later, that I was a functioning alcoholic. Unfortunately, it is part of my family genealogy. My mother was an alcoholic. In fact, she died at the age of 67 from complications of alcoholism. And it was something that we grew up with, but didn't acknowledge. And for me, it was a way to tell myself that I had to change my personality in order to be included in whatever group situation we were in, whether, a bunch of us were going out to dinner or just getting together for some, fun activity. So the limiting beliefs that we tell ourselves are seriously impacting how we live our lives. These are the stories that we tell ourselves. For instance, I had a client I was working with, and her limiting belief was that she would never be as successful as her father. Her father had owned his own business, who was a very successful businessman, but she also told me that he couldn't participate in family activities. He was always too busy with work. He had to do everything. Her mother, would take them out, and they would do the best she could. But her father would never participate because he had to work. And she also overheard friends of her mom and dad's talking about how he was so not involved in his family. He was a workaholic. The business always came first. And they all had a negative connotation of him from a family situation. So the story she was telling herself was that if she became successful in her own business, she was an entrepreneur and had her own business, she would get close to being successful and then do something to sabotage herself. Because the story she was telling herself, her limiting belief, was that if she became successful, if she embraced that success, she would have to give up her family. They wouldn't come first. The business would always have to come first. She would have to make all sorts of sacrifices to make sure the business stayed successful. And her family and friends would think she was a jerk for not putting family first. So once she realized that this was the story, this was the limiting belief that she had been carrying for so long, she didn't get rid of it right away. That's not going to happen. But the more you become aware of what your limiting beliefs are, the more frequent or the quicker you will become aware of the triggers and what is it that's keeping you from, doing whatever it is that you want to do. So for some, it might be, public speaking. For the benefit of their business, they should really get up and do a presentation or share their knowledge or, whatever the case may be. And it's not something you have to jump into all the way. I am a public speaker. I was not, I remember in grammar school and grade school, I was always, if we had a spelling bee or some sort of test where it was, one aisle of children against the other, I remember I would, be fine for the first 2 or 3 rounds, and then I would purposefully misspell the word so I could sit down. I didn't want the attention on me. I wasn't good enough to have the attention on me. So I would miss the word on purpose so that I could sit down. And now I'm a sought after speaker. I have my own podcast, and the limiting beliefs for many is it happens when, maybe you're in kindergarten. You're in kindergarten and you're doing something and the whole class laughs at you. And that's crushing when you're that age. That's like life ending. This is crushing. Oh my God, I will never stand up in front of a crowd again. And that story that you take with you throughout your lifetime is seriously limiting you, because now, in your 20s or 30s, you have your own business and you want to get up and talk to a networking group or some organization that would benefit from what you're offering. And yet the limiting belief story is that if I get up there and say something, they'll all laugh at me. Now, first of all, I would say, so what? So what if they laugh? But I will also say that 9 times out of 10, even if you have something that resonates with one person in your audience, then it was a successful presentation. I remember being very vulnerable, and I had an hour-long presentation to give to the women of Dress for Success Denver. And I opened up my presentation with, "Hi, I'm Terry, and I'm an alcoholic." "Oh, wait a minute, wrong meeting. Sorry, but I am, and I'm 29 years sober." So that's how I opened my presentation. And when I was practicing or going through it and writing the script, I shared that with my husband, and he said, "Are you sure you want to be that vulnerable in this room full of people that you don't know?" And I said, "Yeah, for some reason I really need to say this." So that's how I started my presentation. I gave the hour-long talk. It was very well received. At one point, the microphone went out. Stuff happens. I could have stopped, or I worked it into my presentation. And after I was done, the person who had asked me to present came up to me, and she said, "I don't know if you noticed, but the table in the back, there were 4 women that came in a little bit late." And she said, "I'm so glad you opened up your presentation the way you did. Those women are my new, recovering alcoholics, and they didn't want to come hear another woman speak who have no idea what they're going through." And because I opened my presentation as I did, they were able to say, "Oh my God, she gets it. She's overcome it. So can I." So you just never know who you're going to touch. And if you let the limiting beliefs overtake your overtake the reason and the wisdom that you need to share with people, then what a waste. There are so many people who are not benefiting from what you have to share, whether it's your own story, whether it's education, whether it's research. You don't to keep yourself from getting up on that stage and talking and sharing just because a bunch of kids laughed at you when you were in kindergarten is just life limiting. Hence why they call it limiting beliefs. So many times, if you just give some thought as to what the story is behind your limiting beliefs, it most likely is something that happened years ago, and you're just letting it keep you from being your best self. It may be information that you've gotten from an authority figure. And I will, one story I had heard was, I cannot think of the name of the author, but anyway, this woman was in writing, her master's degree in writing, and she was turning in her presentation or her story or her book or whatever she had to do for the class. And the visiting professor said to her, "Do me a favor," he said, "I will give you a B on this for now, but promise me you will never write again." I mean, she was crushed. It was awful. And, this from an authority figure, this from some academic who, should know what he was talking about. He told her she should never write again. So that she took with her for many years. she finally had the opportunity to, they were shooting a movie in her town or something she went to watch, and she brought her script with her book with her, and was able to give it to one of the workers on the movie, who gave it to the appropriate person. And they called her and they said, first of all, you should publish it. And second of all, I want to buy the movie rights. And that book and that movie was Romancing the Stone. And how many years did she waste because some academic told her that she should never write again? So you never know, where I invite you to explore where your limiting beliefs came from and where they started. And most likely, they are doing you such a disservice. And if you just look at them and with a different perspective, like, wait a minute, who was he to tell her that she couldn't write? Maybe he didn't like her type of writing style or her genre. That's fine. But to tell her to never write again, that's crazy. Many times we give away our power by accepting, what someone tells us as, law or, written in stone or whatever metaphor or analog that's not the right word. But you understand what I mean. It's someone else's perspective. So look at it differently. For all you know, back in kindergarten, the class was laughing at something the teacher did behind you. They weren't laughing at you. And maybe they were, but so what? Maybe you have a comedic streak that you didn't know about, and in kindergarten, you probably didn't. But look at things from a different perspective, and do as much as you can to unravel your story, look at it from different angles, and see if you can rewrite it in a different way. For my client and her idea of success, I was able to help her rewrite the story because her limiting belief about success was her father's story and not her story. So what did she want her story to look like? And, in that regard, the second book that I'm currently writing, I made up a new genre. It's called fictional memoir. So it is my memoir, but it hasn't happened yet. And the book starts out with me waking up in an assisted living facility. And I tell the story of how I got there. So obviously, I'm 66. I am not in an assisted living facility yet, but I'm writing the story of what I want that road to look like. So once you know what your limiting beliefs are, this is the self-awareness that you're giving yourself and the empowerment that you have to choose to rewrite it, to choose to discount it, to choose to say with conviction, that's not me. And you get a chance, to look at what you want the rest of your life to look like. And the limiting beliefs are keeping you from living your best life and embracing the amazing person that each one of us is. And we all have strengths, we all have weaknesses. But don't let limiting belief be the be-all and end-all of your weaknesses. If something is keeping you from doing something, I'm not good enough, I'm not thin enough, I'm not talented enough. I mean, look at me. As I mentioned, I am a contestant in the 2024 Miss Colorado Senior America pageant. I mean, come on, I am so not a pageant person. I don't do bling, I don't do heavy makeup, I don't do, sequins and ball gowns, and yet I'm having so much fun in the process. If I had let my limiting beliefs say, oh no, I can't, I have no talent, I have no this, and of course once they told me that there was no swimsuit competition involved, I was a little more open to the possibility. But I've had makeup lessons, I went gown shopping, I am going to do a public speaking presentation for my talent portion. So, it's an opportunity to explore something I never thought I would be able to do. And because of my limiting belief of I'm not enough, I'm not talented, I'm not. So, next time you hear yourself saying that, oh, I can't. But what if you could? How opening would that be? How freeing? What if you could? Take a look at what if you could. Whatever that looks like for you, what if you could? So, limiting beliefs, we all have them. Explore them. Get to know them. Sit with them for a while. Some of them are ugly. It's okay. Sit with them for a while. Then decide whether or not it's actually who you are meant to be. So before we close, I'd like to share with you today's Fan of the Week review. And this review is a little bit off the beaten path. It is not about Soul Wisdom Transitions. This review is actually for my award-winning book, Finding True Purpose, Life Beyond the Castle. So this reviewer says, Terry Monget opens up on her struggles with being accepted by her friends and colleagues, and the extent to which she sometimes wants to earn this acceptance. The curious thing about her story is that, despite her open admission of constantly feeling inadequate, the majority of her actions as a personal secretary to her boss show how her confidence levels improved to a formidable level. The ballroom piano incident and her decisive actions to curtail a certain high-level executive's activities amplify this. Her acknowledgement of a spiritual angle having a part to play in her evolution and her fight back from an accident encourages the reader to look inward when there seems to be no hope. Terry's Finding True Purpose is an inspirational book that everyone battling with the obstacles that life puts before them can learn from. And I will add here that spiritual connection that he refers to in his review is my reconnection with my soul wisdom. So that concludes our episode for today. I want to thank you for tuning in to Soul Wisdom Transitions. And remember, as you navigate through the twists and turns of life transitions, trust in the wisdom of your soul. Embrace the lessons, honor the growth, and always remain open to the guidance that comes your way. Until we reconvene for our next soul-stirring conversation, may you continue to blossom into the highest version of yourself. Embrace the beauty of your journey and always be guided by the whispers of your soul. And your soul would not let you listen to your limiting beliefs. Thank you.